gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. We are back, and by we, I just mean me tonight, because, of course, if you tuned in last night, that was Friday night, and normally our good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard, is not here last night. However, he's got a kind of a schedule mix-up and shifted up on him, so he came last night, and now I'm soloing tonight, so you only get me, but hopefully I'm just as much fun as the two of us. I don't think so, but I'll do my best. I will give you everything, every ounce of entertainment in my body, and hopefully that'll work out. But hopefully you guys are having a wonderful weekend. Happy Saturday. Hope your weekend's off to a roaring success, and you're having a wonderful night. And thank you so much for spending a part of your weekend right here with me. That's really phenomenal. I mean, it's just amazing, and it's always humbling, and hopefully I earn that presence, continued presence anyway. But we got a busy show tonight, a lot of things on deck that we're going to be getting through, and as always, the phone lines will be open. We'll aim for hour number 2 for those, maybe in the second half hour. We'll see what's going on. But if you want to call in at least after the first half hour, please feel free at 720-923-0500. And you can certainly be a part of the fun. If you got some paranormal goodness of your own you'd love to share, I'd love to hear it. And I'll be sitting here waiting. So I see there's a call on the board now, but I think that may be Aussie, but I'm not sure. I suppose I should go. I'll check it in the second half hour if it's still there, and we'll see what's going on. But Aussie had said, hey, I might be using the phone line to tune in, so which is fine if that's what works out. And for him, I guess it does. So anyway, what else was I going to say? Oh, I wanted to make sure to take a moment and thank a couple of people who donated to the show. And they donated via means of PayPal. And there's a link on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. But it's certainly, again, it's never expected, but it's always really surprising and cool when people do it. And the problem with the PayPal, of course, is I don't see them right at the time like we do super chats that happen live during the show. It's easy to see because they're announced in the chat. But I just wanted to say a special thank you to a couple of listeners, Leland B. And then another one just came in, and that it's from James H. And so thank you guys. What? Wait a minute. What? Hold on. What? Wait a minute. I wow. Okay. Well, thank you, James H. I'm absolutely floored. That's amazing. I've never seen a donation like that before, and I'm absolutely stunned. Wow, that's incredible. If that's a mistake, please let me know. I I don't know what to say. Oh my God. I'm sorry, folks. I thought I wasn't prepared for that at all. I swear to God that changed. I saw what I saw before the show didn't look like that, but that's huge. Like we're okay, James, and Leland, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Again, it's never expected, but it sure is appreciated. That's the first time that's ever happened to me, and it's live for your viewing pleasure. I almost need to go sit down somewhere. But anyway, wow. Okay. That's kind of thing that kind of knocks the words right out of your brain. Wow. Okay. All right. Sorry. That really did shock me. But thank you so much to those of you that are giving that way as well. I know I don't come online and thank you guys enough for that. I do see them come in, every one of them. I wish I could reply right to the people when they donate via the PayPal, but oftentimes I don't get that return information, or I don't know how to find it if it's there. So I apologize, but every one of you guys that contributes however you can, thank you so much. And please, don't think it's expected. There's many ways to contribute to the show. Just being here, supporting it, liking the streams, recommending the show to other people, sharing the streams, whatever. It's so many ways to help, and we appreciate every one of you. So thank you so much. But let's continue on here. We've got some things that we got to get through right away. And as always, the best place to start is the news. Whoops. Wow. Okay. Yeah, you can tell I'm totally flummoxed here because I can't even find my buttons right now. So I'm in a state of disbelief. But very cool. All right, folks. So we got the news right now, the Paranormal Portal news desk, and featuring me. And let's get into some news and see what's going on here. And I got some cool articles, nothing really over the top bizarre, but some entertaining things and some UFO-y kind of things that I think are kind of cool. And the first one tonight is coming from a site called animalien.com. And they got the U.S. Navy filmed pyramid-shaped UFOs. And I had not heard of this. Of course, everybody's familiar with the Tic Tac craft that have been reported for since at least, it's been reported, I think, since 2017 is when it came out. But, they kind of blew the lid off of at least a pretty solid first level of disclosure, from a authentic government source, which is pretty cool. But here's what it says about this pyramid shape. It says in 2019, the U.S. Navy photographed and filmed pyramid-shaped UFOs and spherical advanced transmedium vehicles. Reports UFO sightings hotspot.blogspot.com. It says that this is only part of the story, and visual evidence pertaining to UFO UAP incursions by unknown advanced transmedium vehicles, or UATVs, engaging U.S. Navy warships. On May 1st, 2020, a classified briefing was generated about the UFO UAP presence via the Office of Naval Intelligence, or ONI. Those familiar with the briefing articulated to me that the goal was to destigmatize the UAP problem and to promote more intelligence collection regarding UAP incursions and encounters with active military deployments, wrote Jerry Corbell. This UAP briefing was built on to a previous ONI briefing generated October 18th, 2019, and both were distributed across a wide range of intelligent networked platforms, he added. Jeremy Corbell was able to obtain information regarding these and other UAP-related briefings as well. Unclassified slides, and some of the most intriguing military aircraft captured footage he has ever seen. And I'm not going to show the video, but I will put a link in both chats if you guys want to check out the video on your own. The context surrounding this content is important to understand, as its evidentiary value is best demonstrated through the lens of provenance. Ooh, poetic. We want you to understand why this new evidence is worth your full attention, and ask yourself whether these UAPs are made on Earth and piloted and controlled by humans or not. Corbell claimed that the mysterious UFO clip was received from an anonymous person, and then added that he has access to some information on an alleged intelligence briefing conducted by the Pentagon into unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. Earlier, Ben Rich, Lockheed Skunk Works, said, "We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. We now have the technology to take ET home." And again, that's from Ben Rich, who is the former CEO of Lockheed Skunk Works. And that's incredible. That's a hell of a statement to make if it's just fluffy. And it doesn't sound like just a propaganda kind of statement. It would be much more nebulous, I would think, if it was just, we are way ahead of everyone else kind of thing. But that's pretty powerful. So there's other things, not just Tic Tacs, folks. But I mean, I think everybody knew that. But this is at least this has also been recorded apparently. So let me get this link posted to the chats, and those of you that wish to can check this out. All right, let me get to here. Yeah, they are wonderful, Lucky. I've never seen one with that many numbers in it. That's amazing. All right, so let's do this and this. There it is. It's posted in both chats for your entertainment, your viewing pleasure, as it were. So let's get back to just me. And we'll get to the next one here, which is another fine example of, I don't know what to make of this one. I just saw the headline. I was like, what does this mean exactly? But I figured we'd read it and find out together. It says, let me put it up on screens from animalien.com. Secret UFO probes hidden from UK government as military didn't trust them. The Ministry of Defense's secret ET hunters didn't trust civil servants with their information, claims Dr. Peter Clark, who uncovered the Defense Intelligence Staff's study in 2005. Britain's secret UFO investigations kept their findings hidden from the government, an academic has claimed. Dr. David Clark of Sheffield Hallam University said the Ministry of Defense team tasked with hunting ETs didn't trust civil servants briefing ministers with their data. I think any look at the U.S. politics in the last 6 years and all the leaks that happened through several administrations, it's like, oh my God, there's probably good cause to not trust the public sector. But I'm on both sides of that because, of course, we love the information. But it said the lecturer and investigative journalist uncovered the Defense Intelligence Staff's 400-page study into 10,000 UFO sightings in 2005. He has now said its military officials often kept their findings secret from civil servants over fears the information would be leaked. Nice shirt, huh? Go full Captain America here if you're do the news and shopping right here on the page. Dr. Clark added the former government UFO investigators have gone public over the findings, such as Nick Pope, who didn't investigate anything. He told the UFO podcast with Martin Willis there was a UFO desk where he was an incumbent for 3 years, but he was just one of dozens of different people who did that task, and he didn't actually investigate anything. He just received reports and filed them. He was a civil servant. And there was a body that investigated cases, and it was known as the Defense Intelligence Staff. And they were the people who were tasked to investigate UFO incidents that were deemed to have some kind of military significance. The UFO investigator added, the system was extremely complicated, and there was at various times 2 or 3 different departments of the British Ministry of Defense who were involved in investigating UFOs or responding to the public. He might have run checks with the local radar station, but that's as far as time allowed. If there was anything deemed to be of potential military significance or something that needed further investigation, it was passed to DIS-5 or DI-55 to do the investigation. Okay. I've interviewed most of the people who worked on this subject at DI-55 at the time, and they tell me, well, Nick Pope didn't have any involvement in this. We did the investigations. We didn't share information with them because we didn't trust them. So this is kind of a Nick Pope hit piece a little bit. He was a civilian who was briefing ministers. He was doing PR work, and during that time in that job, he thought, well, I could make a living from this. Officials at the Defense Intelligence Staff investigated some 10,000 potential ET sightings in the UK from 1997 to 2000. It concluded that UFOs had an indisputable, observable presence, but there was no evidence to suggest they were hostile or under any type of control. Well, that's interesting. Wow. That's kind of like I was interviewing, Bill Barnes, and he's from UFO Hunters, and I happened to bring up I brought up who was it, the Canadian guy, man, I can't remember. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? But anyway, it was just like, well, you didn't do anything. You read my books. It was like, ooh, ouch. I'll remember the name in just a second after I'm done with this article, but I can't remember it for right now. But anyway, sometimes it can be kind of cutthroat out there. But anyway, let's get to the next one, and this is this is kind of cool. I don't know. I've been kind of looking forward to this, and I know that it might be kind of, I don't know, maybe against the natural order of things, but I think this would be kind of cool to bring back things that used to be here that are no longer here. And by that, I'm talking about an article from animalien.com. The authorities of Yakutia are going to populate the tundra with mammoths. Yep, they're going to bring back mammoths, folks. Officials are confident that attempts to clone the extinct animal should bear fruit someday, reports natgeo.ru. The pace of development of modern technologies and science makes it possible to talk about the possibility of cloning a mammoth in the near future, and said the head of Yakutia, Aisin Nikolaev. I don't know, I'm doing my best to sound worldly there, but I don't know how close I am, but it's the best I got. So I'm sure we'll be able to see living mammoths walking along the Yakut tundra, said the head of the Republic. According to the president of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Alexander Sergeyev, Yakutia intends to make the mammoth fauna its own brand, including tourism. That sounds a little scary, its own brand. Jeez, I don't know if I like that. It sounds like a commodity. It's a living thing. Now, the mammoth, from a symbol of antiquity, eternity, paleontology, and in a sense can turn into a symbol of modern science, which really promotes Yakutia, and that is it will be not only a tourist brand, but a scientific brand of Yakutia, Alexander Sergeyev. Nikolaev also reported on the primary tasks of the study of mammoth fauna. One of them is to bring the mining of mammoth bone to the sphere of legal regulation. In Russia, more than 80% of the remains of the mammoth fauna are concentrated in the territory of Yakutia, which is about 500,000 tons. Attempts to extract suitable material for cloning from the remains of woolly mammoths, Mammuthus promigenius, have been going on for decades. With the melting of permafrost, that remains of ancient animals began to be found more and more often, and scientists expected to find suitable samples. However, the likelihood of such a scientific breakthrough in the coming years is still small. Cloning mammoths according to the classical technology, when the nucleus of a living cell is inserted into the egg, is impossible. In the soft tissues of mammoths, even very well preserved, there are no such cells. In samples of frozen tissue, it is sometimes possible to find individual whole nuclei of cells, but when the remains of ancient animals thaw, they are destroyed, and scientists do not yet have the technology that allows you to preserve the structure of the cell during thawing. Therein is the conundrum, folks. But I think that's kind of cool. I think that's kind of exciting because it's hard to get a scale idea of what would a mammoth look like. Because of course, African elephants are huge. The Asian elephants are quite a bit smaller, but African elephants are huge. But a mammoth is, I don't know, maybe half again as big. So that's just a monster. That would be really amazing to see one moving around again. But I don't know. I guess I'll have to let me know what you think about that in the description or in the comments. Do you think it's right to bring that back? Do you think, like, I'm all for like a Jurassic Park? It's like, why not? As long as there's no T-Rexes going down Main Street or anything like that. Yeah, why not? I don't know. That kind of stuff to me is kind of exciting. But again, when you mess with nature, I guess maybe that is a dangerous prospect. So I'm excited to see what you guys think. Okay, so let's get to the next one. I got to watch the time here because we do going to have a break coming up. Okay, yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. All right, the next one is, this is another one that I thought was pretty odd and unusual, but this is apparently a report coming from or having to do with NASA, talking to astronauts. And according to this from animalien.com, NASA stops astronauts from talking about aliens, TV producer claims. TV producer has claimed that astronauts have been prevented from talking about UFO sightings by NASA. Kevin Burns, producer of History Channel program Ancient Aliens, has insisted that that space fear talking about their extraterrestrial experiences, as the agency frowns on it. Seems like that's not the whole sentence, but anyway, speaking to the Daily Star Online, he said, "We have interviewed NASA astronauts who are convinced that they have seen UFOs and who have confirmed with us that information has been suppressed. The astronaut Edgar Mitchell was famous for believing in extraterrestrials based on his personal observations. Buzz Aldrin also spoke about it. But there's a reluctance to confine a lot of this because of NASA being a government agency, kind of frowns on it." During the show, Kevin also spoke of an incident where a computer hacker, Gary McKinnon, claimed to have an image of a UFO from the NASA database before his machine was mysteriously shut down. I'll bet it was. Very short little article, but yeah, I guess it stands to reason. I don't think anybody believes that NASA's been real forthcoming with any kind of evidence in terms of UFOs or the existence of extraterrestrials. It just they just are locking it down. And it's funny, in light of all like the disclosure from the Navy and the Pentagon releasing those, well, inadvertently releasing those Tic Tac videos, you'd think that it would be like, okay, yeah, we know they're here, but it still hasn't happened. So that's kind of interesting. But let's get to the next one here, and this is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com, and this one is our last one tonight for the news. And this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Alien AI could be billions of years old. That's a sobering thought. It's like we're developing AIs now, and they're getting like scary intelligent. If you ever look into some of the AI stories around the development of like Google's AIs and other companies developing their AIs and seeing how they, like Google developed these AIs, that there were two of them, and they actively worked to develop their own means of communication so that people wouldn't know what they were talking about. And they were doing all kinds of funny stuff. And it's like, wow, they really are like going their own direction. But they had to be shut down several times just because they were developing in a way that couldn't be controlled. And so I don't know. But this says that extraterrestrial AI could be billions of years old. Let me look at the time quick. Okay, we got enough time for this. A NASA philosopher maintains that an ancient extraterrestrial artificial intelligence might actually exist. When we think of the possibilities of life elsewhere in the universe, we tend to imagine civilizations not unlike our own, made up of humanoid, biological beings like something out of Star Trek. But what if the dominant form of intelligence in the universe is artificial rather than biological? Philosopher Susan Schneider, who holds the Baruch S. Blumenberg NASA Library of Congress chair in astrobiology, believes that such an AI might have already been around for billions of years. "I do not believe that the most advanced alien civilizations will be biological, she said. The most sophisticated civilizations will be post-biological forms of artificial intelligence or alien superintelligence. For a recent study at NASA, Schneider attempted to understand the questions of how an alien intelligence would think and whether or not would have conscious experiences similar to our own. She concluded that once a civilization reaches a point at which it can venture out into space, it will take only a few centuries for them to transition to artificial intelligence. This makes it highly unlikely, she argues, that any aliens we do encounter will not be biological. She said it's important to note that her definition of artificial intelligence extends to entities who have enhanced their minds and consciousness with technology. So this doesn't necessarily mean that an extraterrestrial AI would be purely robotic in nature. Not like just a brainiac, I guess. Perhaps a better analogy would be something like the Borg in Star Trek, a fusion of biological entity with machine designed to enhance both, way beyond what could be achieved with evolution alone. Whether we are ever likely to encounter such beings or to even become them ourselves, however, remains to be seen. I don't know, that kind of takes the fun out of it, though. I could just meet a robot. I don't know. Just me, I got a romantic concept of it. Bring on the Vulcans. Let's get to know them. All right. So I guess that's it, folks, for the news. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, folks, here we are at the Paranormal Portal desk. And we're just about bumping into the break here. So we're going to be going to break in just a little bit, and then we'll come back in the second half hour. I'm going to check the phone line when we do and make sure that's not somebody just holding to talk to me. But I believe it might be Aussie, but I'm not sure. So we'll check into that when we come back. But we got a lot more to come, so I hope you guys are ready. It's going to be an adventure. And get a libation, use the loo, and I'll meet you back here in just a couple minutes. So don't go away. Lots more of the portal yet to come. Just waiting for the bell. There's the bell. All right, we'll be right back.
From the dawn of man, we have
was just reading a comment from Michelle in the YouTube chat. She says, "Hi, Portal fam. Just couldn't figure out what was happening to my sound. And my hubby just called and told me I could play it now." Huh? Turns out my phone was still connected to his car's Bluetooth. Well, I hope he likes the show too. All right. Welcome back, guys. We're into half hour number 2 already. The time has flown by. The first half hour just goes in a blink. It's just the news, and then boom, we're off and running. I hope you guys enjoy the news segments. And here's the thing. I know it's not always paranormal, but I hope it's at least interesting and thought-provoking and entertaining. So you guys will have to let me know. But the feedback I've heard so far is that you guys do enjoy that. And I'm thrilled because it's fun to do segments of the show rather than just drone on aimlessly for, about a topic. I like to have segments and pieces and parts and to have a variety in each show. So I hope those are well received. But again, any feedback if you've got about the show, I love hearing it. I've always tried to tailor the shows to be, the best I can be. But, your feedback is really important because you guys are the ones out there tuning in. And if there's something you feel that could improve the shows, I'm happy to hear it. Doesn't mean I'm going to take every bit of advice, but I love hearing it. So by all means, feel free to do that. You can email the show and myself anytime at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So love to hear from you guys. And also if you have paranormal stuff to share, but you don't really want to call in or you want to submit it for a story or something for use in the podcast, then use that same email address again. That's paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So I guess that's not on the screen on YouTube, is it? No. So we got the TFR link, the donate PayPal link, the phone line, but there isn't the email. I'll have to get that on there too. Lots to do's. There's always to do's. But let me check this phone line. I got to see who's hanging on hold here. This is area code 215. You're on the air.
G'day.
Hey, is it you, Aussie?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, brother, because I did hear last night.
Yeah.
Were you connected last night as well?
Yep.
Okay, because I saw that, but apparently...
It's showing up a different number, is it?
Yeah, it's showing... According to my screen, you're in Pennsylvania right now, so... So, however that works.
Wow, never been there before, and apparently I'm there.
Yeah,
Wow.
you're a multi-dimensional Aussie. That's all there is to it, brother.
Excellent.
All right. Well,
I can be somewhere else without actually being there. That's cool.
All right. Well, you sit back and listen, and thanks for tuning in, brother.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. Take care. All right. So that is Aussie. Because last night I heard that somebody had tried to call in, a listener, Jason, and I said he didn't get through. And I was like, well, I only saw that one number, but maybe he had contacted or tried to connect in such a way that I didn't notice it during a story or something. So at any rate, the phone lines can be open now if you want to call in. We can certainly take calls as well, but we're going to get to some stuff that we had started covering last night. And this is the first is a wrap up of an article we were covering last night, the second half of it. And this is from justforspooks.com. And it's 24 people share what made them believe in the supernatural. And as I was saying last night, I love these kind of stories because I think it's very powerful when people's paradigms change. When your paradigm changes, your world is completely reimagined. It's like seeing things for the first time again. And I think that that's very powerful and can be incredibly threatening as well. But I think for the most part, that usually brings a more robust and better understanding of the world around us. So, but we are on number 13 of 24, and that's where we're going to pick it up tonight. It says, when I was really young, 8 or younger, I got up in the morning and went to the stairs of my house. I started going down the stairs and I felt something behind me. Then something lifted me off the ground and took me down the stairs. I think I actually read this one last night, but we'll recap it. I could see a white glowing thing underneath me, sort of wiggling back and forth. And I then got to the bottom of the stairs and it shot through the wall into the outside. I felt the door handle to check. It wasn't a dream. I felt that although I didn't feel myself touching the ground at all, someone please explain this. I'm not just making this up. All I can think of is I dreamed, sleepwalked, and then woke up. And also many others, like hearing noises in the same house and at night and the rooms somehow being lit up. And there's a big list, but this is definitely the one thing. So that is weird. And it's not unprecedented. There's been many, many, many stories of people being levitated or thrown, sometimes by their neck. They'll feel like something just grabs them by the neck and slams them against a wall or something. That it isn't unprecedented. It does happen. Very rare though that you get that kind of an interaction. But in this case, it seems like it was pretty benign. It didn't like chuck the kid or anything. It just carried him down the stairs. So it's almost an endearing act, really. And it didn't seem to be over troubling, at least by the narrative. So, all right. So the number 14 is I was driving in the mountains in the winter near Kananaskis, Alberta. And I was going around a turn at about 100 kilometers per hour. I heard a soft voice in the back of my head whisper, "Be careful." And so for some reason, I slowed down to about 50 kilometers per hour. And within about 10 seconds, I came to a second corner and saw a couple huge elk on the road. And 3 or 4 cars stopped to take pictures. I had to navigate slowly around the cars and the elk. If I had been going full speed, I think I would have hit one of those huge elk head on and been messed up a bit. Yeah, that's a good intervention, man. Oof. Number 15 is, there was a time a year or so ago when my girlfriend said her hands felt funny. And could I feel it? She gently pressed her hand to my leg, and it hurt me like a burn and left a clear red mark where her hand had been touching. And she was like, "Wow, great," and used her new evil superpower against me. It wore off after a few hours, and it's still pretty weird. I've never heard of anything like that before. It had been a normal day hanging out at the flat, and neither of us had touched anything remotely toxic. I suppose that could be just simply energetic as well. So I think anybody familiar with the Bible and stuff is familiar with the laying on of hands. Well, there's a healing modality called, I don't know if this is what everybody calls it, but I learned it as polarity therapy. So it's the use of body energy, and you do it in a manner of creating a circuit through people's pains and stuff. And the idea is that basically in the system of ki or chi or meridians or whatever, that pain isn't over energy. It's where energy is blocked. And so by virtue of touching around an area of pain, the concept is that you're utilizing your body energy to break up blockages in the other person. And so that's using it in a way to create balance. But is it possible that that same energy could create pain? And I suppose it would be. I don't know that this person knew that, but they found out. But I think that, it's a very real thing. We are energetic beings, so it doesn't surprise me. But very cool. Number 16, a very quick one, says when my daughter was about 3, she told me that she picked me and her dad to be her parents. And I asked her if her story was a dream that she had, but she said no. It happened before I was born. I saw all the grown-ups lined up, and I floated over them and chose you. Cool. That's a sweet idea. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. It is kind of neat to think that at least this isn't all just happenstance and accident, right? That there is a plan. I think that's comforting. Number 17. When I was 7 years old and my family was about to go on their weekly shopping trip, I was the last one out of the house and had to grab my Game Boy and heard the most dark, demonic laughing I've ever heard to this day and booked it the hell out of the house. I was afraid to be home alone for years. My fear of this house aroused again after I'd moved away. My brother told me at night he heard furniture moving upstairs when nobody else was awake in my old room. Nobody bothered going into anymore. And he told me he played a playlist of Hank Williams to soothe the ghost's soul. Wow. little Bocephus. Or I guess that was Junior. Junior was Bocephus, wasn't he? Okay. Well, that's terrifying. Number 18 is flies. Big black flies. Flies from hell. like I've never seen before or since. Hundreds of them appeared within about 30 seconds. In the bedroom, I was visiting a bedridden friend. Okay, we started killing them, and I'm swinging something. I don't remember what, but these things are so thick. Each swing is smacking half a dozen or so. No open windows. I immediately closed the doors so that they don't get out to the rest of the house. They are buzzing very loudly and swirling up to the skylight. I stop swinging and try to get a handle of what is happening. I take 10 seconds to estimate their number, and I'm thinking thousands. And there's no doubt there are hundreds, but here's the freaky, creepy part. After about 5 minutes of this, they start decreasing in intensity and numbers. 30 seconds after that, they are gone. This bedroom is sealed up, and 500 flies have vanished. We found maybe 3 bodies. My one and only experience that I just cannot explain at all. Yeah, that's right out of a freaking movie. That's horrifying. That would be horrifying. Oh, yeah, no, not good. I think, I often say, the word demon gets thrown around really cheaply, really easily. It's like, oh, something scared me, it's a demon. Something moved, it's a demon. And I think incorrectly. But in this case, it might be absolutely right on when you're talking about demons, because that's freaky. Manifesting flies, yeah, that's pretty dark. 19 is, I grew up in a 125-year-old Victorian house. The stairs to the basement will occasionally make noises as if someone was walking upstairs. Things sometimes randomly fell off counters when no one and nothing were near them. I once saw a figure leaning in the doorway of my room, too. All of that was weird, but not creepy enough to make me think, oh, ghosts, of course. It's an old house. It makes sense. It makes noise, rather. I was a kid and probably saw my mom checking in on us, etc. The one thing that did creep me out happened when I was in 8th grade, and I had a friend over for a sleepover. We were sleeping in cots set up in the basement, about 5 feet away from each other, and the bedrooms were on the main floor, and my parents and brother were upstairs. Well, I woke in the middle of the night to see a man standing over my friend, just looking at her. After about 30 seconds, he turned, and without a glance at me, opened the door to the bathroom. I saw then that the bathroom light was on and very bright. Walked in, closed the door behind him. Thinking it was my brother, I shrugged it off and went back to sleep. When I asked him the next day why he had come downstairs when he had closed her bathroom on the main floor, he told me he hadn't even woken up during that night. Creepy. Yeah, that is pretty creepy. Again, I don't know why that happens. There's so many instances of people waking up, seeing these things, looking at them. And what is it? I almost got to believe that they can maybe sit and watch our dreams. Maybe they sit and watch what we're dreaming. Because I think that they are telepathic. I think spirits are probably telepathic. They can just hear our thoughts. They can see what's going on in our heads because it's all energetic through the mechanizations of our brains. So I don't think they have any trouble with that. So maybe they just sit and watch our dreams. That's the only thing that makes sense, because staring at somebody sleeping is about the most uninteresting thing to do. You've got to be insane to sit there and stare at somebody sleeping for a long period of time. All right, number 20 is, oh God, where should I start? Start at the beginning. Growing up in my parents' home, every so often I would see this tall shadow walk by from the corner of my eye. Yeah, big deal. I could be imagining things, but what made it more eerie is that I have an older sister who noticed it too. And way too many times we both noticed it at the same time. Fast forward a bit, this happened in 7th grade. Just got home from school with my mom, the only one home, and she decides to go to the store and ask me if I want to come along. Well, up to this point, I've never been home alone, but the neighbors were home, and who stayed in the in-law next door. I don't know what that means, in-law next door. So I'm there alone in the kitchen, playing with my Lego and the kitchen table while watching Robotech, which I didn't want to miss. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the shadow pass by through the connecting hallway. I tried to ignore it and continue what I was doing, but I fumble with a piece of Lego and it falls to the floor, ending up in the hallway. Well, screw it. I have more of that same piece and leave it there. And I continue building what I was working on. Moments later, I felt something hit the side of my head, and I hear the sound of a Lego landing in a pile of Legos in front of me. Slowly, I look towards the hallway. That piece of Lego on the floor wasn't there anymore. I got out of there so fast, went to the neighbors, and ate chocolate cake till Mom came back home. When I was a kid, I didn't know how to swim, and one day I go with my family to a relative's party whose home featured a swimming pool. Got bored and went back alone and walked around the pool when I noticed a leaf floating near the edge. I kneel down on both knees and try to go grab it, but I lose my balance. I grab the edge of the pool with both hands to try to steady myself, but to no avail. I'm completely falling forward. My feet are not touching the ground anymore either. I remember my face getting mere inches from the water, but suddenly I'm somehow forced back up. I decide to go back inside and join the party. And this next one happened to my sister. Note, a week before this incident, our grandmother died from a sudden stroke at our home. My sister actually found the body. Aw. My sister was walking home from school and climbing the wide/long staircase in our home, a Victorian, and there were no railings either. Near the top, she loses her balance and starts falling forward. She remembers seeing an open blue sky when all of a sudden some unknown force pushes her back up. And she says she thinks it was Grandma. That's really cool. Be nice if someone was always there to catch us. When I was about 18, my sister moves out, so I move into her room since it was larger and it had its own restroom. Her room always felt a bit creepy, and I had a hard time sleeping, sometimes at night. One night while sleeping, I'm awoken by this great pressure on my chest. I open my eyes in the twilight. I can see this tall, human-like shadow standing on my chest. I freak out and shake my head a few times, and it was gone. Months later, the in-law next door becomes free, and I decide to move there. Screw that. I don't know what this in-law next door is. It must be another apartment connected to the apartment, like for an in-law to live in, mother-in-law kind of house or something. The next part is at 4 years ago, I'm 38 now, by the way, vacationed in the Philippines for about a month. Let me see. Yeah, we're good. I also had a cousin who was getting married there. Anywho, one night I'm hanging out with another cousin who's from there, and we get this wild idea to visit one of the old cemeteries where we have a number of relatives buried. He wanted to point out where one of our aunts was buried since I already visited the graves of every other relative earlier in the week. This was probably around 10 p.m. at night. It was kind of a dare to just for fun. So we take this moped with me riding in the back, and there's this gravel road that cuts through the center of the graveyard. So we start to travel on that with only illumination from the twilight and his moped headlight. My cousin drives slowly, just barely fast enough to go forward and keep the moped righted, and then about 75 feet in, he suddenly stops and we both need to put our feet down. Maybe we're just going too slow. Paying it no heed, we decide to continue. After about another 20 feet, suddenly stops again. My cousin turns his head to look at me with a big WTF expression on his face, and he tells me that this time he felt something force him to turn his wheel all the way to the side. I respond that maybe we just need to go, and he nods, and we turn his moped around and start. As we start to head back, I tell him I can hear the sound of footsteps walking on gravel behind me. He says he can hear it too, so he kicks it into high gear and we get the hell out of there. No, we did not drink or imbibe anything that night. So during my stay in the Philippines, I'm staying at different relatives' homes. Many of them are pretty old. A couple of days later, after the above incident, it's morning. I'm starting to wake up and decide to chill in bed for a little bit longer. And suddenly I feel one of the corners of the bed sink like someone is getting on it. And I can hear/feel the bed spring squeak too. Well, I shot up immediately as there should be no one else in the room. And there isn't. That moment I decide to go stay in another relative's home who's inviting me to stay over. Later that evening, I'm back with another cousin who's there with me and helping me to bring my belongings to that other relative's place. I'm not freaking out or anything from earlier anymore at this point, but I did describe to her what happened to me in the morning, and she just laughed it off. Anyway, I tossed my suitcase on the bed, start to pack my gear while we chatted, and as I was placing stuff in the suitcase, suddenly what I can best describe as a 4 to 5 inch wide ball of light, like a will-o-wisp, danced from left to right across the bed and my suitcase and then disappear. Immediately, I jumped in the hell back and said, "What the hell?" And I turned to face my cousin to ask if she saw that. I saw what I just did, and her mouth was agape. She did. The weirdest thing I remember about that ball of light is that it did not give off light. It did not illuminate. It did not cause any shadows. It didn't give off light. Well, it must have given off light. If it was a ball of light, right? It didn't give off light. It did not illuminate. But it didn't cause any shadows either. So it's I don't know. I kind of understand what they mean, but it's kind of a mental test to visualize what that looks like. How much more is this? This one's still quite a bit longer. So do I have enough time to... Yeah, I think we can finish it. Okay. And I have another one while I was in the Philippines. I wanted to visit Bugayo, and the same cousin who I was with during the cemetery incident offered to come with me. One of the stories I've heard about Bugayo is that in the, I think it was the mid-'80s, there was a massive earthquake in the region causing a Hyatt hotel to collapse, killing hundreds of people. So my cousin and I are checking out the sites, just wandering around, and he doesn't really know the city either, but it's not that large. And at one point, we're walking on the side of some fairly busy road behind this old military college, teacher's camp, making our way towards downtown, and it starts to rain, so we decide to take refuge at a covered bus stop shelter until it passes. While waiting, we both light up a cigarette. Cars, taxis, buses pass by. We can hear the buzz of a distant radio in the direction of the college. Off to the side and across the road, we see this old man pulling along a horse, not unusual, and he heads towards this unremarkable gated chain link fence, which happens to be directly across from us. He enters, taking the horse with him, closes the gate, and disappears off into the distance. Moments later, things started to get really odd. There were no vehicles passing by. The ambient sounds seemed muffled. I couldn't hear that radio, and the cigarette smoke we blew out hung in the air, and it started to get cold, very cold. I got goosebumps, and I could see my breath. Hello, tropical weather. It was like time had stopped or slowed down to a crawl. That's weird. I'm hearing chirping in my ears. At that same moment, my cousin and I both turned our head to face each other. I said, "Something weird is going on," and he said, "Yeah." And then I said, "Let's go." He got up without a word and started walking. I followed, maybe just 10 feet away from the bus stop. I could hear that distant radio again, and vehicles started to whiz by. It was still raining, just not as hard. We didn't talk about what happened and eventually made our way downtown. Later that day, we did some shopping and decided to take a cab to go check out the summer palace cottage of the president of the Philippines. And on the way there, I asked my cousin to ask the taxi driver to point out anything noteworthy on our way. We happened to be on that same road we walked on earlier. As we drove past that gated fence area across from the bus stop, the taxi driver pointed out that was where the Hyatt Hotel collapsed. My cousin and I faced each other. We did the what the hell stare and then shook our heads. Now that was eerie. It bothers me that I have a hard time scientifically, logically explaining to myself what happened each of these times, but hell, even more so since I was a full-grown adult when I was in the Philippines. Then to top it off, I wasn't alone a few of those times. Not cool. Yeah, that's pretty spooky. So we got a couple more of those. We'll finish that up on the return trip after the break into hour number 2, and we'll definitely look into that. And then we got more. And I think we're gonna close out the last half hour of the show talking about Bigfoot reports in a report database. So we're gonna let you guys pick some states, and we'll look at some reports coming out of different areas and see what you guys think. Some of them aren't really exciting. Some of them are just incidental. Like, hey, we saw a humanoid guy at about 50 feet away crossing the road in the dark. But some of them are really profound. So we'll take a look at those and some other stuff when we get back. So still lots to go here on the portal. Hope you're having a good time. It's a hell of a ride. But we do take the breaks because we are on the networks. Friday, Saturday nights. We're also not only on YouTube, but we're on TFR Live, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And so we got to take the breaks to keep the continuity. So don't go away. We'll be right back with hour number 2.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Well, I'll be. Somebody left a perfectly good megaphone man in the chat room there. Mr. Nace, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out here with us here on the Paranormal Portal. As we move into hour number 2, can you believe it? It's already been an hour. How the hell does that happen? I don't know. I've been doing this for 5 years now. 5 years of the Paranormal Portal, folks. This is our anniversary month for the Paranormal Portal. This is when it all started. Back in the ages of, I guess 2016, right? Yeah. In April 2016, it all kind of started. And here we are, 5 years later. Growing and developing, and I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing, but I always have fun doing it, so that's at least a start. But welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with me. As always, if I sat here doing it alone, it'd look kind of stupid, but you guys completely complete me. You validate my existence. Thank you for that. And I really appreciate it. It means the world. And hopefully you'll continue to enjoy the show. In fact, if you're new, I just hope you'll take a moment and get subscribed, become part of the family. We'd love for you to stick around and keep coming back every time we're doing shows. That's you can only do that if, well, I mean, you can do it if you can remember which day it is and what time it is. But we do live shows right here on YouTube every Wednesday through Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But we also do a podcast that's released every Sunday night on all the major podcast platforms. Not the same show. So if you're hanging out here on YouTube, you may catch a YouTube show that's used for the podcast every once in a while. But generally, the podcast is its own entity. It's a whole separate show full of, most often we do interviews with people that have experienced the paranormal and Bigfoots, UFOs, the whole works. And so we've got a lot of great interviews out there. We've talked to some amazing people as well. And, so the podcast is really its own entity. And it's not one and the same to the YouTube shows. They're quite a bit different. So there's lots of Paranormal Portal to find and enjoy if you're enjoying the shows. We are already working through an article here. It says, if you see ghosts and spooks and get scared to the point where you are nervously chortle, you may just hear your story told on the Paranormal Portal. Buzzicino, you're still whipping them up, brother. Nice job. Nice work. Love that. Happy anniversary. Thanks, Nace. I appreciate it. You've been with us the whole journey, though. I think you and Lewis and Ken and several of you guys have been around for the whole journey. It's been a hell of a time. Yeah, Brooks, you're going to be on the one tomorrow. That'll be released tomorrow night. Yep. You might not catch it till Monday, though, because I usually end up actually finalizing everything and releasing them at about close to midnight my time. So it's actually more like Monday morning. But at any rate, Brooks is my guest on this podcast, and you can hear her incredible stories. So let's get back to this article. We just got a few more to polish up on this, and then we'll get on to the next, which is another great article that we're going to cover. But this is the article we're working through now is from justforspooks.com. 24 people share what made them believe in the supernatural. And I think they've been pretty excellent stories. But we're on number 21 right now. And so I was laying in bed next to my boyfriend one morning when everything was peaceful and bright, as the sun had risen and was just shining through the window. I was wide awake, and I began thinking about what it'd be like to be possessed. Oh, Jesus. That's not a good morning thought. No, you shouldn't have that anywhere near morning. Boredom is funny like that. You find a puzzle or something. Get a hobby, but don't sit around and think of that. I closed my eyes and envisioned swiftly pushing all thoughts out of my mind and said to myself in my head, what the hell? I give permission to have my body and mind possessed by a spirit. You got to be kidding me. Well, I guess you're going to find out. I was laying on my back at the time, slightly elevated up on my elbows, and something pushed me flat on my back, hard. My elbow was then touching my sleeping boyfriend's rib cage, and all I could hear was a rushing sound in my ears. Yeah, I started feeling like I was going to fall through the bed because I was being pushed into it so hard. And I realized that I would fall through the bed, the floor, the third floor, the second floor, the first floor. But then what? I started to absolutely panic. I couldn't move any part of my body, but I was struggling with everything I had in me. Remember that my elbow was against a sleeping person. I realized that if I woke him up, maybe he could see what was going on and help me or something. I put all my strength and energy into jabbing him in the rib cage. I couldn't move my arm at all. I tested my fingers and I could slightly move them, but not enough to help anything. I was still struggling not to fall through the bed, but then I felt like I was losing that fight. I could kind of see my bedroom still, but though mostly it was through a thick lens of gray static. Still a rushing, roaring sound filled my head inside. Inside I was struggling and screaming and fighting. And then it was done. All that fighting and yelling came through, and I lurched forward in bed onto my knees screaming. Boyfriend woke up and held me and asked what the hell was wrong. Why was I shaking so much? I didn't know what to tell him. I still don't. Since then, I've not been able to clear my mind, meditate at all because of the panic of losing control of my body rushes in and floods my head. Broad daylight, wide awake. I try not to think about it anymore. That was by a creepy paste. Yeah, that's horrible. That's a horrible thing to... There's an old saying, don't ever challenge the universe because something might answer. And I can't say that this is a true story necessarily, but it wouldn't surprise me much. I think there are many things that are always constantly watching and waiting and just looking. I mean, you think about these entities, and they may, for any number of reasons, may feel like they've been robbed out of their experience. Maybe they had a tragic early death, and they feel like they were robbed of their life, and they feel like they're owed something. And so they just wait and watch. And there's other things that just hate us, and they want to undo us. And so they watch and they wait. There's no telling where these things are, where they aren't. Maybe it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's just this, not an omnipresence necessarily, but maybe it's just an energy that's just sitting there lurking and waiting. And then putting a thought out there like that is just like green light. And you can't hardly blame them for taking that shot. It's like, oh, I have your permission. Okay, game on. And, I've shared a story from my cousin recently who, it was a couple of years ago, told me of the guy her friend that got in a car accident, went into a coma, and wasn't expected to make it, but suddenly pulled through. But then she started having dreams of him appearing to her in a dream, saying he was sorry that he had to go, and that he'd miss everybody. She's pretty psychically tuned in, and she's like, it doesn't make any sense because he got out of the coma. And I'm like, are you sure that's who came back? And then she said, oh my God. She said, it's funny you say that because he changed completely. He all of his old friendships he cut off all of his old relationships, peer groups, friend groups, quit his job, and then apparently just packed up and moved away. And nobody could figure out what the hell just happened. And it just occurred to me that it was a walk-in. Those are usually referred to as walk-ins. They're not necessarily demonic. They're just a spiritual takeover. But it's not unlike a demonic takeover, except that demonic takeovers, they want to destroy everything around them. They want to create havoc and just a perversion of life. But anyway, very, very twisted. Number 22 on this list is my friend's mom died in her childhood house on Valentine's Day. Aw. And they promptly moved out because of the emotional connections. The house sat empty for 2 years. She told me during this time that her bedroom window, if pushed on, would always unlock. So me and some friends decided to sneak in on Valentine's Day with some voice recorders and cameras and see if we could see a ghost or whatnot. Hours pass and nothings. We ask questions, sat in the dark, and nothing. I decide to ask one last question before leaving. Do you miss your daughter? And almost immediately, a light fills the daughter's room like a spotlight, bright. It only lasted maybe a few seconds, but I was on the verge of pooping my pants. We were all in the mom's room because we thought that was the best bet, so nobody could confirm it was a ghost or some neighbor shining a flashlight in the window, but all I know is I never went back. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be sad to think that mom was still stuck there. Number 23. I was driving down the road with my cousin and another friend, and we all felt something strange. I straight up hallucinated and saw what I would expect hell to look like, if I believed such a place existed. Fire, pits, giant devil-looking thing in the distance. It seemed to last for about 5 seconds before I was back in the car, and my cousin immediately pulled over and asked if anyone else just felt that. We said yes, but never discussed exactly what that was, so I have no idea what they saw or felt. Just based on things I've seen about the supernatural, I'm guessing it was some kind of magnetic pulse that I've heard can produce feelings and visions in a human brain. Totally freaked me out at the time, and I never really spent a lot of time worrying about it and just thought it was a weird event. Yeah, I mean, it's an electromagnetic field. A high electromagnetic field or pulse would maybe give you the heebie-jeebies and stuff. And I've heard that some people can hallucinate in high EM fields, but that's a pretty specific hallucination. Wow. And the last one in the list. This one's a little bit longer, but it says a few experiences. Story number 1. As teenagers, I visited my best friend for a few days when she had to move away for a while, having not seen each other for a while. We were staying up super late. Here we go. I had my Ouija board with me. Oh, no. And rumor was the former tenant had been murdered, so it was like 3 a.m. or later, and we're getting tired and bored, not really asking the board serious questions anymore. Getting answers like, yeah, CA. Does CA stand for California? Yeah, NA. Does NA stand for Nebraska? When suddenly, yes, tarnish a memory, tear my bones, carry my body. Me, did you spell that out, hon? My friend, no, did you? Me, no. So bored. Is the reason I'm not freaked out because of my guardian angel that I supposedly have? The board says, yes, my friend. And then what is it that I'm sensing? Bored. DEA. And then at that point, she threw the piece away violently, which made me scream, which made her scream. Story number 2. I turned on the radio one night to make some noise while I got ready for bed since I was on edge. Went to brush my teeth, and when I came back into the room, the radio wasn't playing. It was on, but no sound. I finally started hitting the volume button and eventually began hearing noises that I have never heard before or since come from that radio. Slammed the off button and jumped into bed. Number 3. My cousin-in-law calls my female family members the coven. High intuition runs in our family, often giving the impression that we are psychic. One of my cousin's kids has had tea with my dead grandfather, whom she never met, and apparently pointed out details about him that no one ever told her. Same child started sobbing uncontrollably one night before bed, insisting, "Jeannie's crying." That's my aunt. And after unsuccessfully trying to calm her down, her mother calls my aunt to show the kid that everything was fine, only to find out that my aunt had shut her hand in the oven and was indeed crying. Same aunt had the dogs go wild at her house in the country one night, and as she stood out on the deck, she started hearing drum beats, calls like from Native Americans and galloping horses. The sounds came up from the valley and passed over the house. I myself have experienced various premonitions, mostly minor in nature, like things that I saw and actually happened a few seconds later. Even with the frequency of weird situations in the family, I'm not necessarily a believer. I just grant the possibility that there's something out there we can't recreate or measure with instruments. That's fair enough. I don't know. I mean, even terms like psychic, they have such a connotation with them. Psychic is it's a fine word, and it does instantly bring to mind an understanding, but it also brings to mind negative connotations of people being scammers and fakers and hoaxers and and such that go with it. So I understand that a lot of times I think people are more threatened by the terminology than the actual phenomena itself. I don't think maybe it's quite as far-fetched as most people think, whether it's psychic or whether it's seeing ghostly apparitions or whatever. But I think it's very common, but people are just afraid of the terms. Do you believe in ghosts? Well, what does that mean to say you believe in ghosts? It means that you might be hokey, you might be flaky, you might be a little prone to, flights of fancy or whimsy. And some people assume that means you're not grounded in reality. And I don't think that that's fair at all. It's just the stigma that's attached to it. So I think that's a lot of times people are skeptical because they don't want to adopt the terms, and with the terms, the negative connotations of that. So I understand some people's hesitancy to go, yeah, I believe in all that stuff. But me, I just don't care. I used to. I used to be a little nervous about talking about this stuff publicly. And this is long before I ever did a show. But at a certain point, I just went, I don't care. I'm not in high school. I don't care if people, don't agree with it or not. If they ask me a question, I'm just going to answer it as honestly as I can. Like, do you believe in ghosts? Yeah, absolutely. And some people are like cool and it starts a great dialogue. Other people give you the sideways look and then they just kind of shut up. But in either case, it's not harmful. It's okay to have an open mind. I think it's actually beneficial. But to each their own, folks. We're going to get into another article now, and this one sounds I haven't read it before. In fact, I just cold read that one too. But this is one that I thought would be kind of fun, because it does deal with the whole psychic phenomena. But I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, we can get into some of this. I don't know how long this is. This is probably a huge article, because it's coming from a site called Factinate, and I think that these are generated lists that they get from different sources, and I think they're auto-generated for the most part. But they load these pages up with advertisements, and so it takes, it's like 100 stories, but you have to go through like 300 ads on this long scroll. And so I think it's a way to generate revenue that's kind of cheap, but the articles are good. And this one opened up in the Brave browser. So we're going to open this, and this is from factinate.com. And the article is 6 Cents When Gut Feelings Turned Out to Be 100% Right. Now, I've always had a real strong intuition. Like I know when something's sideways. I know when something's not right. I've had a really, really good dialed in intuition for that kind of stuff. And it saved my butt on many occasions, especially when I was working in corrections. Like I just knew when something was going sideways, and knock on wood, but I was never wrong. Whenever I said something was going on, something's not right, I was absolutely right. And thank God for that, because not only did it save my bacon, it saved other people that work there. I knew when an attack was coming. I don't know why. Just walked in and said something feels weird and stuck with it, and it was right. Avoided a head-on collision with the truck at another time, just because this vision of another truck flying out of a blind spot, and many times this happened, and I could feel how that would work, and I trust my intuition, but it wasn't until I worked in corrections that people told me to, and I thought that was so neat. They said when I first started there, they're like, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So, I did, and it worked out good. But the article we're reading is, again, Sixth Sense, when the gut feelings turned out to be 100% right. The first one is truck-on-truck violence. I was driving to work one morning at about 2 a.m., and as I was behind the slow 18-wheeler, I was getting the feeling I needed to move. When we came up to a red light, I switched over a lane so that I wouldn't be behind him anymore, and just about a second later, I heard something that sounded like an explosion. It was a tow truck slamming into the back of the 18-wheeler at about 70 miles per hour. It tore off the two rear wheel axles of the trailer, and most certainly would have smashed my car to pieces. Yeah, that would have been a death sentence. For sure. That's awesome. That's a great premonition. This one is, number 2, is a different kind of drive-by. My wife and I did long-distance thing in college, and I planned on doing my normal routine to visit her, where I would leave Chicago in the morning and get to her in the early afternoon on Friday. While I'm closing my store on Tuesday night, I get the feeling I should just leave that night, so I said all right and left right away. A little while after lunch on Friday, tornado sirens go off, and I don't think anything of it until I head back home on Sunday and drive through a town about half hour north of her. It got lit up by the tornado, and that's when I realized if I had left at my normal time, I would have been smack dab in the middle of that tornado. Oof. Number 3. Sometimes a hot shower doesn't cure all. I thought it was cold showers. Oh, wait. No. One day I felt a sudden pain in my lungs when I inhaled. I've never been stabbed, so I didn't know what it was like, but the pain should have been equal to it, if not worse. It happened before, years ago, after some hot water in the shower. The pain was gone. My wife insisted on going to the ER, and I insisted on hot water. I feel like we should go and see a doctor, she said. When I was examined, I was diagnosed with pulmonary embolism on both lungs. The doctor said 1 or 2 more hours, and you would have been gone. So yeah, I owe my wife one. Yep. A mother's intuition is next, number 4. When my mom was pregnant with my older sister, she and her family decided to go hiking in the mountains. Wow. On the day of the hike, she suddenly felt weird and uncomfortable. She stayed behind while the rest of the family went for the hike. Her family got lost, and this was long before cell phones. If it wasn't for my mom staying behind, no one would have noticed they were gone, and so no one would have gotten help. Oh, very cool. Number 5, Road to Nowhere. Road to Nowhere. Sounds like my autobiography. Sorry, I couldn't finish it without cracking up. I was offered a dream job at almost double my salary in a different city. It was only 2 hours away, but something told me not to take the job. I had a number of people tell me I would never have another opportunity like this, and my fear of leaving my hometown was holding me back. 2 months later, after I turned it down, that division of the company was sold, and everyone in that department lost their job. I would have been stuck in a new city with no friends or family nearby and no job prospects. Yeah, that's terrible. I'm familiar with that kind of deal. I don't know if it was a gut feeling or a lucky coincidence, but either way, it was a really close call. I decided I should empty the garbage as I left the house, for which added maybe 10 seconds to my journey as the bin was 10 feet from my door. I began to walk to school. Just in front of me, some idiot from the third floor flat threw a load of glass out of his window, smashing all over the path. If I'd left 10 seconds earlier, aka if I'd left without taking out the garbage, I would have rained down on me. Oh man, that'd be brutal. 9 lives. I was tossing my clothes in the dryer and just shut the door and pressed the button. Then I got this weird sense. Something just didn't feel right, so I thought maybe I'd forgot to add dryer sheets. I turn off the dryer, open the door, and out pops my cat like, "Ha, you found me." She was totally oblivious what was about to happen. Ever since then, I always double check before turning on the appliance. Yeah, what a heartbreaker that'd be, man. You're just doing some laundry and you end up cooking your cat. Aw, it's the cat. Cat's like, ooh, you got me. Thank God you got you. That's a terrifying thing. All right, so folks, I'm going to stop right here because we're going to go to our last break of the night. Again, we got to take the breaks because we are on the network. And as we're broadcasting on YouTube, we're also broadcasting on TFR Live, which is the mother network of the Paranormal Portal, where it all started 5 years ago. And that is also being simulcast on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. So we got to take half-hour breaks. So those of you on YouTube get the videos. Those of you on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream, you get the commercials. But we got to pay for the lights. So we'll be right back, everybody. Don't go away. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Last half hour of our 2-hour journey tonight. It's gone really fast. Just to take a side moment here, I would ask everybody to, if you don't mind, if you would just send your love, your energy, your prayers, your best wishes to Timothy Renner of Strange Familiars. He's apparently got some health issues he's dealing with, and of course, that's terrible, and we hope everything works out okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just tough, and our prayers go out to him and his family, and we'll hope for a speedy recovery for Timothy. And I just became aware of it now. I don't have any more information than pretty much that, but yeah, definitely take a moment and send him some love in however you send it and whatever methodology you use. But we definitely got to come together for each other and send the love and light and the prayers and the protection, and that everything works out okay. So I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's terrible. What was I going to say? I was going to say also that if you're listening on TFR Live, and then you're also listening possibly on TuneIn, TalkStream Live, and iHeartRadio, that after the Paranormal Portal is over, you can stick around for the Spaces Between with Paisley Wild coming up next. And it should be a good show. It always is. And Don does the production for that show as well. He produces that show as well as our podcast. So he's a busy guy. But maybe Don will be on over there and you can catch him. But that'll be coming up following the Paranormal Portal. And if you like to watch on YouTube, you can certainly catch her show at youtube.com/thespacesbetween. So she's working really hard, doing wonderful things. So definitely support her work as well. And yeah, been great. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to hear about Timothy. That's tough. I don't know him personally. I know of him, but I was actually reaching out to him to see about doing a collaboration show. I'd love to have him on as a guest and pick his brain about all of this stuff. But yeah, crazy. It's just, the drop of a hat, everything can change. So enjoy your moments, folks. Enjoy your moments, because there are no ordinary moments. As it's from one of my favorite books, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And if you haven't read it, it's a really good book. They've done a movie adaptation on Amazon Prime of it, and it's okay. The movie's okay, but you miss a lot of the wisdom and the beauty of the messaging that the book delivers, because the book is really very powerful. But again, it's The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Those of you that aren't familiar with it, you might enjoy it. Those of you that are, you know what I'm talking about. So I read that, years ago. Read it years ago. I still got it in a box somewhere, but I just read so many of those books. But that was a really powerful one. Socrates. All right, so the next one on our list from Factinate that we're covering right now, it's sixth senses, having to do with when your sixth sense proves you right. That's going to be number 8, dog versus bear. I was staying at a friend's house out in the country, and he was asleep in another room. I was dozing off with this gigantic pit bull, Isabel, a sweet girl. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by sounds outside, like a scrambling. Izzy leaps up too, looks at me, and then back to the door, and then growls. My friend at the same time had a young daughter, about 4 or 5. I also immediately began to worry about her. I grab the nearest weapon, a fire poker, and go to open the door as Izzy is beside me, seemingly ready for a fight. But it didn't feel right. I instead bar the door as best I could and creep to look out of a window. As I look, I feel myself nearly scream. Right outside is a gigantic bear, so big it easily could have ripped my head off, and it has a few cubs in tow. And I watch as it ambles off. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if I had charged out of that door as I originally intended, me, Izzy, and Izzy would not be here today. Yeah, mama bear is nothing to play with, man. They are absolutely ferocious. I've seen, I don't know if it was a grizzly or what mama version they're talking about. The picture they're showing here is a grizzly, but I've seen like a video of how fast bear can move. There's one video where there's this, and this is incidental, but I just think it's kind of neat. But It shows this mountainside. Somebody's got a telephoto lens from quite a bit of ways, and you see this black bear suddenly shoot up this tree like a bullet. It's shooting up the tree like in a hurry, and it gets way up to the top, and then the panning goes up the hill, and you see this mom grizzly bear with 2 cubs, and that mom she sees that bear going up the tree, and she does a beeline down the side of that mountain for that bear. She's going after that big black bear, and that black bear is going to be toast. You know it will be, because, man, there's no doubt. Then the speed that she was going down that mountain. There's an old fable, I guess, is all I could say, is that if you ever got to get away from a bear, run downhill. Well, let me tell you, that's not going to work out for you. Don't trust the downhills at all, because that mama grizzly was just about flying down the side of that mountain, and she was going for that bear. And then the clip stopped, thank God, because I don't want to see that all play out. But I just couldn't believe the ferocity at which she was charging at that bear. It's like, nope. So, number 9, sound travels. It was maybe 12 or 13. I was maybe 12 or 13 at the time. A childhood friend of mine came over to the house to ask if I could play. Mom, said she had a bad feeling and told me not to go. Ooh, I got one of those stories. My friend leaves the house and goes down the hill. Doesn't stop at the stop sign and gets hit by a car. I still remember hearing the car and hearing his scream. Thankfully, he survived and is both alive and healthy today, but if Mama Bear didn't have her instinct, I'd have probably been hit or been in one bad spot. Yeah, I think it was actually my dad. I was going to go spring skiing. I was 14 years old. It was at the end of the ski season. I was, doing ski instructing and stuff, and it was how we spent winters. We just spent it skiing all the time. In southern Minnesota, there was only a couple ski places, but we just happened to live a few miles from one of them, so we were always skiing. And my dad, I think had the bad feeling. He's like, I don't know, I got a bad feeling if you go today. Which is funny, because my dad was not the sensitive type, but he had this idea that it was a bad idea. And I'm 14 years old. What the hell does my dad know? He doesn't know anything. And so fast forward to the end of the day, I had managed to plant one of my skis into a snow sludge pile and twist around from my knee down. It didn't twist. From my knee up, I did a full 360 and shredded my knee. And I spent a long time recovering from that. But Dad had the feeling. He was like, nope, this is going to be bad. This is not good. You shouldn't go skiing today. But, yep, that's hindsight for you right there. Those old parents, they do know something from time to time. All right, the next one is bad apples, number 10. My mom knew something was wrong with me when I was younger, but when she called the doctor and told them how she felt, they didn't want to see me for another 2 weeks. My mom went into a blind rage over the phone, telling them that she was taking me to get checked whether they liked it or not. We got to the GP. He puts a stethoscope on my back and smells my breath. He immediately says we need him to get to the hospital now. And turned out that I had a type 1 diabetes, and according to him, if we'd waited another day, I would have died. Apparently, my breath smelled like apples, which is a sign of buildup of ketones in the blood. I was in severe stages of diabetic ketoacidosis. Wow. That's not good. Number 11, fresh to death. I used to sleep in a basement apartment, and one winter, I woke up in the middle of the night and smelled something odd. I opened the windows and hoped it would dissipate, but I didn't think much of it. Come morning, I still felt weird. Well, turns out that the snow had blocked the heater exhaust vent, and carbon monoxide was feeding into the house. If I didn't open my windows, I would definitely have been dead. That's funny, because I thought carbon monoxide had absolutely no smell, but maybe the furnace exhaust did, though, and contained carbon monoxide. So, thank goodness. Number 12, one-sided race. I was on a popular trail that goes along the river through several small towns. I was on a fairly barren part of the trail, about halfway between two of those towns. Tall grass on one side and the river on the other. I see a man running solo in front of me, and I'm a bit faster, so in time I pass him. I noticed he's suddenly keeping pace with me. He's not falling behind as fast as he should. Instead, he's flanking me, just diagonal to me on the riverside. I get the feeling that with one good push, he could have me in the tall grass, and there are no witnesses to see what happened. I give another 10 seconds before I start panicking. Yeah, this doesn't feel right. I whip out my phone and dial 911. I don't push send, but cup the phone in my hand with the screen facing towards him. I otherwise keep running at the same pace, pushing myself to the next town. I notice within 30 seconds that I don't hear him as close anymore. I give it another 30 seconds, counting in my head, and then chance a look, and he's gone. I full on stop to turn around, and he's gone. The trail is flat and straight in both directions, as far as the eye can see. Where did he go in the span of a minute? Either the grass or the river. I can only guess that his reaction validates my feeling that he had bad intentions, and this is why I don't run with headphones when I'm running alone, and why I don't trust anyone when I'm out in the fields or trails. Yeah, good idea. Ugh. Hop on pop, number 13. My dad was going to fix something in the ceiling of my room when we had to go into the attic. He had me sit right below where he was going to work so that I could help him find the correct spot in the attic. But I had to go to the bathroom. I quickly went and came back. I couldn't believe my eyes. My dad had fallen through the ceiling and was sitting in a pile of drywall and insulation in the exact spot I had been just moments ago. He ended up being pretty much perfectly fine besides a couple of scratches and bruises, but if I was sitting there, I probably would have been seriously hurt, if not killed, because I was only in elementary school at the time. Oh, yeah. Call a contractor. That's a great time to call a contractor. Sliding doors is next. When I was about 23, I was walking down my street at a little after dusk. I saw a van approaching a little ahead, but without any lights on. I didn't think too much of it since I was still early evening, but then the van slowed down and almost started creeping up on me. As I approached a part of the sidewalk, which was boxed in by a tall fence, and that's when I knew something was up. For me to keep walking, I'd have to go between a wall and the van. In the little time it took me to walk a couple of steps, as the van was getting close, I noticed that the side door was slowly sliding open. The one thought in my mind was, why isn't the light turning on inside the van? When you open the door of a vehicle, the light should come on inside too, unless you deliberately switch that off. So I just took off and ran to the median in between the lanes of traffic. Yeah, I ran in front of the van and across the street. I'd rather be roadkill than let whoever was in the van get me. Immediately, the van took off like someone lit it on fire, from a slow crawl to full speed. As I looked after it to check the plates, I noticed that it had no plates and still no lights. I called the police, and of course, they sent cars out and did not find the van. I never had anything like this happen again. I'm just an ordinary person, so I don't suspect I was targeted. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Wow. Yeah, that's terrible. There are some such horrible people in the world. That is just tragically horrible. So I've got an opportunity here, folks. So we got an option to continue that list, or do you want to dive into some Bigfoot reports from just random places? What would you like to do? Let me know in the chats which one you'd like to go. I can go either way because I love all this stuff. It don't matter to me none. I'm good with both. But if you'd like to continue on these stories just for the last 11 minutes of the show, we certainly can. Or we can try to shift gears and get into some Bigfoot reports, which might be awesome. It'll all be awesome, no matter what, because we're doing it. Bigfoot. Okay, it's coming. All right. I only have a small sampling from the chat, but it's pretty clear. There's no question. People want some Bigfooting. So let's do some Bigfoot reports here. All right, so what I need to do, let me just do this quick. I'm going to move this over to the other window so I can see, but I need some suggestions on states of the U.S., states in the U.S. Give me a state. Wisconsin Bigfoot. Lunatic Friend says Wisconsin. Let's see if Wisconsin comes up here. All right. Okay, let's find here's one from Bayfield County 2000. Let's see what it says. Oh, God. Micro font. And we're looking at a site called BigfootEncounters.com. And I think it's very similar to the BFRO as far as reporting goes. But it's from October 2000 around noon. Closest water area would be Moon Lake, U.S. Highway 2. I was a fourth grader from Iron River Elementary School at the time. It was a warm day at the end of October, and I remember that most of the trees had lost their leaves. My school had a big playground. It was a big field on the edge of which is a patch of forest that eventually extends to the east into a national forest. On the other side of the playground, there were this jungle gym and monkey bars and other things. Then from there it extends to a group of huge trees near the end of the parking lot. In the field, kids normally played soccer, but none were playing that day. As I can remember, there wasn't a single kid in the field that day. My school sits up on a large hill overlooking that field, and on this particular day, I was sitting up on the hill with my best friend Tyler. I was scanning the area, and I looked over to the patch of woods behind the field, and I looked at the spruce tree that was about 15 feet tall, and all of a sudden, a tall, dark figure came out from behind the tree. It walked about 15 feet to another spruce tree of similar height, and while I was walking, I motioned for Tyler to look and asked him if he was seeing what I was seeing. He saw it too. We sat there dumbfounded as we watched the creature walk from tree to tree, eventually disappear into the woods. Afterwards, we built up our courage to go down and have a look. In the area where we saw the creature, we found no tracks because it was just thick with long matted down grass. But then we arrived at the site where there was a musty odor in the air, almost like extreme wet dog or something. Both of us, to this day, still don't know what it was we saw, but we know we didn't imagine it. The area where the creature, probably a Sasquatch, disappeared into was a thick patch of forest that winds its way through the easternmost edge of the town. After about a mile, widens out and enters into the Chequamegon National Forest. This creature that I saw was very dark, probably covered in thick black hair. It was very tall, probably upwards of 8 feet or so, had extremely wide shoulders, and swung its arms when it walked. From what I saw, it had very large gait when it walked. That was from Sam Knapp, and that was filed in the database in the year of 2000. Wow. So that's a pretty good sighting. That's the first one. Where else did we get? What other recommendations? Oklahoma. Oklahoma. Let's see what's going on in Oklahoma. If we can. Let's see. That's Wisconsin. Where the hell is there's Oklahoma? Let's see. 2006 is the most recent on this database. We can always look at other ones on other shows with more recent reports, but is this the one? Okay, so this is Caddo County, Apache, Oklahoma. April 2006. Former Boone Elementary School, 5 miles west of Apache, Oklahoma. My grandson and friends were playing behind old school during the Lion gymnastic meet. As we were walking around the school, my grandson came running to me and said, "You have to see this." I didn't know what he meant. He just kept pointing to the ground saying, "Look at this huge footprint." I looked down and couldn't believe what I was looking at. And I've lived around this area all my life and never encountered such a thing. My grandson and I had the very same answer. It must be a Bigfoot that came through here. I got down closer and looked to make sure this is what I was looking at, and I put my foot inside the huge footprint, which is 3 times bigger than my size 7 shoe. As we looked, we discovered more bare footprints with a huge gap between each imprint. These prints lead towards the nearby creek. I don't know if this is a joke, but to make these tracks, someone went through a lot of trouble to do so. I want to believe this is real. From Vanessa Sapcut. They're residents of Oklahoma County. And there's the map right there to give you an idea where this Caddo County, Oklahoma is. That's pretty wild. So again, right by the panhandle there, isn't that near the big thicket? Isn't that big thicket area? Is that more over here? That might be more over here on Texas, but I'm a little geographically challenged. But It looks pretty serious. But yeah, that's pretty powerful. Those darn footprints. Another one. Let's see. Did we get any other suggestions? Northern California. I just want to see Missouri. Somebody want to see Ruger Ridge. Want to see Missouri. Let's check out and go to Missouri. See what's going on in Missouri. 1925, 76, 81, 2003. Oh, man is terrified by black-haired creature. That sounds good. Let me move this down a little bit so I can see the clock. All right. Jefferson County, Missouri. July 2003 near DeSoto. 2:37 a.m. There was a lake nearby off Highway 21. I arrived at Mother's house and parked down by our garage, which is down by the woods, and we live down a gravel road in a densely populated area. I mean, probably 10 people in every square mile. I had my dog with me. She's 40% wolf and lab, and she was acting really strange. Ever since I was a kid, I've been scared to go down into the garage that was once a barn. I always felt like something or one was watching me. We get out of the car, and Kale, my dog, starts barking at the woods. And it is too dark to see, but I hear some commotion. We rushed up to the house, went in, and I ducked behind the door in the dusk to dusk to dawn light. I could see if there was anything following me. We have a dusk to dawn light that is cast light to which if anything crossed through, there would be a shadow cast. And there was a human-looking shadow coming around my house. I grabbed my pistol and darted out the door. As I come around the side of the house, I came maybe 5 feet away from a huge, grayish black being. Instantly, I turned and ran back to the sidewalk. I then turned around to see the creature gracefully, with a weird type of movement, walk up to the top of the driveway, then stop, turn, and stare at me with a sort of soul-digging look. Then Kale takes off after it, and it walks 2 steps into the shadows, turns and disappears. Then Kale comes running back. I stood there for a few minutes in shock, for my life will never be the same, because I saw what no can even imagine. It scares me so bad I get the chills when I think about. And people sometimes believe me because they say they can feel the fear as I speak about it. Sorry, it's written really sketchy here. It's a hilly thicket in some places, the terrain with a lot of trees and small ponds. It has a lake less than a mile away, and a big river is only 5 miles away, and the town of Blackwell, which has the highest numbers of violent crimes in the world for a town of its size. It's only 4 miles down the tracks, less than 500 feet from my house. The creature was a grayish-black, demonic-looking creature. Walked like a man, but lumbered along like an ape. It had the strangest glowing eyes, like a pair of night vision goggles at night. That was from Dale Martin Jr. Wow. That's pretty bizarre. That was filed on 2003, October 6th. God, that's got to be a horrible feeling, though. To think you're going to be confronting a man and then to turn a corner and that's no man. That is nowhere near man. That's scary. Well, that's going to wrap up our show for tonight, folks. Because we've been betrayed by the clock. The clock took it all away, folks. The clock took our night away. That's okay. I hope you guys had a good time. I have had a great time talking to you and entertaining you as best as I know how. So I hope you're leaving here thoroughly entertained. If you're brand new, I hope you'll become subscribed. Hit the bell so you get notified whenever we go live. But it's been my distinct pleasure to bring you the portal tonight. I hope you've had a good time. And if you have, please let other people know. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. Thank you. It says, great show. Human-like shadows. Yeah, I know, Livewire. It's like, oh, human-like. That could be a lot of things. A lot of things apparently look human-like, and not all of them are human. So, yeah, Evil Clock, you're right, Lunatic. Absolutely. Great show. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it, and thank you, everybody, for being here, being a part of the journey. I absolutely love it, but I'm going to be turning it over to Paisley Wild now. Spaces between coming right up. So tune in on TFR, iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live. Stick around, check it out. Otherwise, check her out on YouTube. If that's your jam, then it's youtube.com/thespacesbetween. But just remember, I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll be back tomorrow night with the Night Terrors for a 1-hour show before Monday and Tuesday off. So I will see you then. Love you guys. Have a great night. Be good to each other. And I'll talk to you tomorrow night. Good night.